Hey everybody, good morning. It's Friday, December 21st, and this is the Tyngsborough TV Friday Wrap-Up. I am Town Media Director Steve Brogan, and I have my guest here, as usual, every other week. He's joining us, Chief of Police Rich Howe. Thank you, sir, for being here. Good. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Much better. All right. Like I've never done this before. So we got a whole bunch of fun things to talk about. And obviously we're going to talk about some department stuff. Maybe we'll kind of review the year, how it's been for you guys at the department, some of the interesting things that have happened, good and bad and otherwise. And also I got a couple of fun stories we can talk about. So what does a glitter bomb, stoned lobsters, and a fight for free food samples all have to do with each other? Well, absolutely nothing, except they're just a bunch of funny stories that happened in 2018. So we'll talk about that and some other fun things. I'm sure you'll appreciate some of these stories. And also we got the weather that's going on. There's a lot of rain coming today, 4 inches if you haven't heard already. So watch for minor flooding, localized flooding, ponding in the roads. Check your sump pumps. It's always a good one on days like today. So with 4 inches of rain, that's quite a bit in a very, very short time. So keep an eye on those things. And a couple other cool things happen in these coming weeks, as well as things not happening here at Town Hall. We will basically be sort of shut down. I guess there's no meetings. The building will be open except for Christmas Day, but for the most part, it'll be pretty quiet here. So you get a break. You don't have to watch any meetings. Hooray! So anyways, let's chat with the chief here. So how are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
How about you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah.
Just getting ready for Christmas.
Yeah, me too. It's 3 days till Christmas. So
3 days.
Yeah. Did you get all your shopping done?
Almost.
Yeah.
I'm almost there.
Yeah. I got most of mine done, and then a couple of the things that I ordered, they're not going to get here in time. So I was like, oh, well, screw it.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens. It is what it is sometimes. They'll get an IOU.
Just IOU in the
right.
stocking.
They know they'll
that
get
works.
some good stuff.
I've done that a few
That'll
times.
be cool. So how's things been at the department this year for you guys?
Things are good. Things are. We've had a busy year. We were talking before we went on. I think, one of our obviously most significant changes this year was the school resource officer program. Going from 1 to 3 full-time for any size agency, and especially an agency our size, it's very significant. And more schools have approached us about potentially increasing that number. So,
oh, really?
That's going to be an ongoing discussion, over the next 6 months or so, and to see what we can come up with. There's budget constraints, and we have to work through that. And there's certain things that go along with the program. It's not just a simple, plug in a salary and they're ready to go. There's other issues. There's other financial issues that we have to address. But I'm very, very encouraged. The 2 officers, full-time officers, Bethany Bonzar, who's we hired from another department, full-time, certified, outstanding job. She's in the public schools, and she has done phenomenal. The feedback I've gotten, it's just been incredible. She actually just wrote a grant, that will hopefully be getting through Walmart Foundation.
Oh, nice.
And
she's already writing grants. She just started.
Yep.
Wow.
And she's taking an initiative, and that's exactly what we're looking for.
Right. Yeah, that's
like
great.
That. The Vogue School was obviously very, very happy with their school resource officer, Matthew Cozio, who we also just hired in July. He had put himself through the academy. He was full-time certified. So the town got the benefit. We were able to hire 2 full-time certified officers. So there's an incredible savings for that and expense. We hire somebody who's not full-time certified. We have to send them away for 6 months to the police academy, and we're paying them during that time. So it's quite the expense.
I think that's something we don't realize a lot. Is there's a lot of back-end costs to, we say, the taxpayers say, all right, go ahead and hire a new officer. We're going to, increase our taxes. And then you have to, there's a bunch of things on the back end, including additional pay that you have to take care of, things you have to pay for.
Not only is it 24 weeks that they're going to the police academy, but then there's the other costs associated with it, uniform and equipment. So that's $3,000. There's a fee for the academy, believe it or not.
Really?
Wow. $3,000. I think that may even gone up by now. It's expensive, and you're paying somebody 24 weeks, and typically we're shorthanded if that officer is now at the academy. So there's an overtime expense on the other hand. So the advantage of plugging somebody in. But we do have a very strong reserve officer program. It started under Chief Mulligan prior to my administration, and I strongly, have continued that and support that program. And some of our officers are not full-time certified. It's just they're not able to do it. There's obviously you have to be in a position to be able to do it. If you're working already and you're raising a family and you come in as a reserve officer, it's very difficult for you now to put yourself through a full-time police academy. So there's a balance, and if we're going to continue to hire, we expect some retirements over the next year. So there's a balance, choosing from the reserves that we have that maybe are not full-time certified versus hiring also one or two people that are full-time certified. But we will continue to do that. I continue to support the reserve program.
Are the folks on the reserve program, is that predicated on the fact that you eventually will accept the full-time job, or can you be on the reserve program and just stay a reserve officer forever?
We will only hire now people that want to be full-time police officers.
Gotcha. Okay.
In the past, that wasn't always true. We actually do have one reserve officer on our staff that has a full-time job elsewhere, which he's very happy in, but he does a phenomenal job for us. He's trained. He loves his community, does a great job, and as long as that continues, he's going to continue to stay on staff. There's no reason not to have him on staff. With that said, moving forward, anybody that we bring in as reserves, their goal needs to be that they want to be a full-time police officer.
Okay.
There's a lot of training. There's a lot of back-end cost that goes into that. When I came in, the field training, for example, for reserves was roughly 160 hours. That's separate from their initial academy. Reserve officers are required to at least go through the reserve academy, which is, I believe it's now 24 weeks or 26 weeks. It's part-time. It's a couple nights a week, a Saturday. But they do that on their own. Some of the officers now we're hiring as reserves are already full-time certified. They've gotten sponsored. They've put themselves through the academy at their own expense. But regardless of that, we bring those officers in with the intention of, at some point they're going to want to be full-time police officers. With that said, it does happen that we invest in a lot of training, etc. We don't have an opening. They get an opportunity elsewhere,
in another department,
and they take it, and it does happen.
I mean, that's bound to happen anywhere.
It is,
really.
It is, and it's. I hate to use the term, but it's kind of the price of doing business. Where I don't blame anybody for grabbing an opportunity. We really do try to hire people that we truly believe and that convince us that this is where they want to be and they're willing to wait. Typically, our reserve officers have waited anywhere between 2 and 4 years before they have a shot at getting full time.
So they know going in, this isn't something they're going to, like, tomorrow I'm going to get an offer for a new gig, unless something crazy happens.
Right. No, there's no surprise, but I think because we've been growing, because the town's growing, adding the school resource officers, we have retirements coming up, there's going to be some additional movement. So a couple of the reserves that we have on staff right now are full-time certified. A couple are not. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to pick a reserve officer who is not full-time certified. It's just a nice problem to have, to be quite honest. And it also doesn't eliminate the fact that we still may look outside at some point if we have 2 or 3 openings all at once. So we have to be open to that. Bethany Bonza, who we hired, came from another department. She had, I believe, 5 years full-time on in another agency, and she came here, and like I said, and she's doing outstanding, and so it was a good hire for us.
The folks who put themselves through the academy, is that like tax deductible, the cost for the academy or anything like that?
No idea, Steve. No, good question. Wow, that's a curveball.
Sorry, I just a random thought in my head. That's cool. So you were also able to bring on a couple of new dispatchers as well, a couple of new part-time dispatchers.
Yes. So we had the retirement of dispatcher John Martin, and I wish him well. He's retired over the last month after 27 some odd years of service. And so at the same time, we had identified quite a while ago our chief dispatcher, Wally Gomez, who is responsible for communications. You're covering 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The switch is on, you can't shut it off. So we have 7 full-time dispatchers, and typically we've had 2 or 3 part-time dispatchers that support that. So we have been down. We've only had 1 part-time dispatcher, and then with the retirement of Johnny Martin, we're down. So we just hired 1 full-time and 1 part-time dispatcher who are both being trained now.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got their hands full getting them up and running. It's a long process. We hope the full-time person that we just hired, she should be ready to go solo by March is what the date.
Okay.
So that's 4 months out. It's 4 months of training, and that's about as quick as we can get it done.
That must add an interesting layer of complexity to your job, where you have retirements and things like that, people leaving and going to other departments maybe. So you constantly have to have in your mind, like, all right, we're going to have to replace such and such person in 2 years from now because he's going to retire, she's going to retire, and you have your reserves you're trying to fill your dispatch. It must be kind of interesting to juggle all of that, knowing that your time frames are so long. I mean, you're talking months and years even.
Yeah. You're typically no different than any other manager. You try to look ahead, and you do a 5-year plan, and you kind of make your best guesses of what's going to happen.
Educated, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't always turn out that way, but as you get closer to that window, you have a better idea. Somebody can say they're going to retire, and then say, you know what, I really don't want to retire right now, and wait another year, and that's happened. So those things we have to work through. We just try to properly budget and prepare for the retirement, and get our staff, our part-time staff, ready. I want to go back to the reserve officers, and one of the big things is, as we know, liability, police work.
Right. Yeah.
Your law enforcement agency in any department, any community, big or small, is its largest liability. There's no question, just for the very nature of the job. And so it's our job to make sure that our officers are very thoroughly trained, et cetera. So one of the things that we did, and in fact my current Deputy Chief Woods, he took over for me as accreditation manager when I became chief. And one of the things we changed in the program is we actually doubled the training time. This is outside of the academy. So it was roughly 160 hours of training time, which means they're with a field training officer, an experienced officer. They go through, they have daily observation sheets. They have this whole program they go through. We doubled that to 320, and it's now upwards. It's about 360 hours.
Oh wow!
So it's a lot of time. But those officers, when they're complete and they're done, and they successfully pass, and the letters come up to me, and I sign off, they can fill in for full-time officers.
Oh,
so they can actually go out and work a police cruiser, no different than a full-time police officer.
Okay.
But to get to that point, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot of training that has to happen before we can allow them to go out.
Now, that was something that you came up with, or was that like a state thing? As far as doubling the amount of field training hours,
we did based on it's not completely us. It was our choice to significantly increase it, just basically out of necessity. First of all, requirements of the job every year become higher and higher. The certifications, et cetera, and there's a liability portion, and it was our choice to increase it. Could we do it in a lot less? Yes. I don't want to. It's just the results of what can happen if we don't properly train. Everybody knows that where you get sued as a community, failure to train, bad hiring, those kind of things. Those are all areas of huge liability. So we take pride in the fact that we put a lot of effort into our training program.
Well, and heaven forbid anything ever happens, the court would look on that, I imagine, more in a better light, where saying, all right, this department has literally doubled their education standards to make sure that these officers are as well trained as possible before they hit the street.
Yeah. And we have a good staff that's that runs the field training program. Used to be Deputy Woods was in charge of it many years ago, 15 years ago. So I was in charge of it. Now Sergeant Bob Cody is in charge of it. And one of his responsibilities is to maintain those standards. He recruits officers that have kind of moved up, building experience, and we want to choose the officers who are, most active, that have built a good reputation, that we don't obviously have any issues with or anything else, and that are good mentors. And we have a really good group of people that are doing that now. And that's his job, and what he does is he reports to the deputy chief on a monthly basis about how these officers are doing as they work their way through the field training program.
Oh, okay.
There's numerous stages as it goes through.
So a lot of checks and balances, ways to keep track of what their progress is.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good.
And you also don't want to, if it doesn't happen too often, but if somebody is just not cutting it, if they're not making it, there are basically points along the way that it's kind of a stop point,
Okay.
and we evaluate, and there's an evaluation process. And if we find somebody is just not making it, then it may be time to part ways in this reserve program. There's a lot of people that want these jobs, and
I can imagine.
there has to be high standards set, and it's good for everybody, and including an officer. We don't want to put somebody on the street that it's not cut out for this job, and not everybody is.
I imagine that would be bad for morale potentially too, when the people know, because obviously your officers who work with them day in and day, work with that person day in and day out, they're gonna know, all right, this guy's or this gal's not quite up to snuff on this job, so that might bring morale down. I would think so.
It's a great point,
Yeah.
and you're absolutely right. And one of the most important things that we can do is, if you put people in charge of something, you need to listen to them. So I'm not going to override if my field training supervisor comes forward and says this person is not cutting it, and he can articulate why. Here's why. Here's his training sheets X, Y, Z. If I don't support that, that is a problem, and typically we're going to support that. So, but with that said, we don't have those issues. We have some great candidates and great people right now that we're training, and I'm very looking forward to getting them done and out in the streets. Hopefully by springtime, we right now have 3 in the reserve program being trained right now.
Excellent.
And
That's
we
great.
have 3 active reserve officers.
Oh, wow.
So.
Have you noticed any decrease in interest in these jobs, given the sort of the political climate? Has that changed anybody's opinions on it?
So there has been
Yeah.
nationally. Most police chiefs will say, I think it's the urban departments that have seen the biggest
Boston,
decline.
Chicago, those kind of places.
Yeah, and it comes down to it's pretty straightforward. There's it's obviously not everybody. The majority of the public does absolutely support law enforcement and does see the big picture and doesn't look at a 10-second video and they realize there's another 40 seconds that they didn't see.
As we've talked about many times.
Yeah, as we've talked about many times. But with that said, it's a tough job, especially if you're working in these urban areas and you come in and you're not going to become a millionaire from it. And it's something that you come out of college and you might want to think twice, and you might want to go into engineering or computers or whatever. I love this job, and I'm proud to be in this profession. It's a noble profession, and there's plenty of people that are knocking on doors that want to come in. But I think right now we're one of those. It's an ebb and flow, and I think right now it's there's a lot of scrutiny, and there's a lot of people saying, "Why would I put myself through that?"
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of parents out there saying to their kids, "I know it because I have friends the same way. I don't want you to do that. Why would you do this? Why would you subject yourself to this? Because people aren't fair anymore. They're not, they're not going to treat you fair if you, in a split second, do something to defend yourself and you believe you were right, and it turns out you were wrong, or you could have done something else. But in a split second, in that moment, you made a mistake. There's people that want to destroy your life.
Right. Or on the flip side, you could do the right thing, and it was the right thing to do, but at the same time, they still view it negatively because, for whatever political, reason, they don't want to believe that you were right in doing that thing. Yeah.
We had an incident a few weeks ago where an officer made a motor vehicle stop at 6 o'clock in the morning on Pawtucket Boulevard. I can't go into the details too deep, but he made a stop, typical stop for speeding. Vehicle pulled into the driveway and then suddenly found himself in a position where the vehicle had gone in reverse, high rate of speed, and hit his cruiser so hard that it pushed it across the road, ended up totaling the cruiser.
Jeez.
That officer, any reasonable human being, you don't have to be a police officer, especially in light of things going on in the world, he believed that he was being ambushed. He believed something really bad was happening to him, and he came out and he properly drew his firearm, ordered the passengers and driver out of the vehicle, and he was able to do that without anybody else being hurt. Obviously, he didn't discharge his firearm. He didn't take any other actions. There was no use of force, etc., and the suspects complied. But there's an example of whatever the rationale and whatever the reasons that these people did what they did, that officer in that moment, and that's the point police officers are trained. It's what they perceive at that moment. It's not what the public might perceive, 3 weeks from then when they're analyzing every second of a video, or a defense attorney
the armchair
who gets
quarterbacks
3 hours to look at some video.
Yeah.
In that split second, those 2-3 seconds that they have to evaluate, it's the perception of the officer. And there was an example of non-action. He took action, but he took it and he stopped, and he was able to control the situation. I think that clearly is on him. Great training, training by our field training officers, training by the police academy, and he did a fantastic job. The ironic part of that is that he had every reason to believe, and he was justified, feeling that his life was in danger, and yet he took the right actions. Those kind of things happen every single day across this country, every single day. How many shootings do you hear of on a given day?
Only the ones where somebody dies, usually.
Yeah. And so police officers are making split-second decisions. I have no problem with police officers being critiqued or their actions analyzed. They should be. But I do have problems with people that are incapable of being reasonable and looking at it from a perspective of, wait a minute, that officer had a split second to make a decision, and I have 2 hours or 3 weeks to review every little thing that they did. There's a big difference, and I think if you're not capable of understanding the difference, that's a problem.
Well, and there's a difference between critique and passing judgment. Critique is so that everybody can learn from the experience, and hopefully moving forward, if that happens again, which most likely it will, everybody will kind of like maybe have that in the back of their minds. But then there's the judgmental side of like, he was wrong, he shouldn't have done that,
well,
or whatever.
It's the I gotcha, society that we sometimes it seems like that's what it is. Hey, I got you. Instead of looking at the situation from the eyes of that person that was in it, despite what some people might think, I've never met a police officer. I've known a lot of them in my 27 years in this job that's woken up in the morning and say, boy, I hope I get into a shootout tonight. And boy, I hope I get to shoot someone. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
not how it works.
Ludicrous.
Right.
And it's the one thing you never want to do. And so with that said, if police officers do the wrong thing, intentionally or non-intentionally, should be held responsible, and it's incumbent upon us, administrators and law enforcement, to try to hire the right people, bring the right people in. As I said, this job, like any other job, is not cut out for everyone, and that's, I think, the key is that first door is bringing in the right people, and then from there it's training.
Interesting. So why don't we move on now? I want to talk about some other stuff that's happened. So you recently had some meetings to choose an engineer to start looking at a new public safety building, which is very, very positive. That's a good thing for the community, I think.
Yeah, it is. This is something that right after I became chief, it's something that was identified that we're going to need a new public safety building. The building that we're in the police department was built 30 years ago. It was meant, and I can share the original diagrams. It was meant for a 20-year solution for the town.
Okay.
It was built predominantly with donations and volunteers. In fact, there's people that still work at our police department that swung hammers and did work.
That's funny.
There's people that live and work in this town that are plumbers and electricians who donated their time and services and helped build that building. And so very little of it was built actually with tax money. But, it's definitely showing its age. We have windows that can't be opened in the building. We have no central air, so we have air conditioners on the first floor that pop out. There's other things and issues with the department and the building itself structurally that we can't meet certain standards that we need to meet federally and state requirements.
You've mentioned that before, the accreditation standards that the building just doesn't allow you to meet because of...
There's some standards that we just aren't going to be able to meet.
Right.
And so, with that said, we'll continue to do the best we can with the building. It's not complaining. It's just a simple fact that the building needs to be replaced. I know that I'm very confident. I know this community, there'll be widespread support. Bring it forward. I am in favor of a public safety building because the fire department also needs to be replaced. That building, and I might have this wrong, and forgive me, Wes Russell, the fire chief, I believe their building on Kendall Road is roughly 60 years old, and it's the fire fighters over there that have volunteered their time a lot and built additions and,
Right, yeah.
and fixed it up and everything else.
Well, just like the police department, all the volunteer time that's been put into it.
And the money that goes in, the capital money that's going to need to go into these buildings to sustain them, and the police department, we just don't have enough room. We can't have our own training. We can't. We really have enough room to have people there that want to come in and file complaints or whatever the activity is. It's time. So I'm very encouraged that we seem to be moving forward. We've interviewed architectural firms over the last few weeks, and we've chosen one to come up with an initial assessment of all of our buildings and potential sites. And that, my understanding is that will come in sometime in March before town meeting. And I'm hopeful that we can move forward and identify the piece of land, whether it's through a purchase or whether it's through a current piece of land the town owns. Identify where it's going to go, and then move forward with this process within the next year, so we can get this building built. Because it's going to take, the capital money to support these buildings is going to start increasing exponentially.
Now, would the funds to pay for this, would this all come from the town, or does the state kick in anything, kind of like they do with schools?
No, the schools are completely different.
Okay.
My understanding is the school recently is going to be entering the program where I believe it's a 75% matched by the state, so it's 25% of the town, which is phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. They have a good.
But no, I guess talking to some people, 20, 30, 40 years ago, some of those things did exist.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any. Nobody that I've talked to are aware of any grants that would allow us to do that.
It's surprising that there isn't a state, public safety fund or something like that, like the MSBA.
I agree. I think there's funding for, if you have a building like the Winslow that falls under, some of the guidelines to get restored as a historical building.
Yeah, community preservation, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I'm not aware of any public safety grants. But I will say that a public safety building, if we were to build one, and let's just say, we built it in 2020, the standards they're building for right now, they consider a minimum of a 40-year building.
Really?
So,
oh wow,
40 years.
Okay.
So that's a long time commitment that for the town to deal with an issue that obviously needs to be dealt with, and it's done. And I do believe that there's obviously certain savings by having a public safety facility versus building two standalone buildings. It's one infrastructure, it's one electrical structure, it's one elevator, it's there's certain elements to the building, and I also think it's good for the community to be able to come in and kind of a one-stop. Here's everything right here: dispatch, communications, police, fire. What I envision is coming in a lobby, and then we'll have a training room right off the lobby. And so not only we can do our own internal training, which is a significant cost savings for us. The fire department can use it, but the public can use it as well. It'll be scheduled out, and if we're not using it, the public will be able to, host whatever they want to in this meeting room. So
basically, another community meeting room.
Yeah, and I certainly think we could use that in the community. But there is a significant need. I have no doubt the fire chief sitting next to me would obviously agrees, and so. I've been working on this with various town administrators and selectmen for over 4 years now, and will continue to do it. And I'm very hopeful that over the next year or so, we can get this thing done.
It definitely seems, at least in my opinion, having been in both of these buildings now a little bit, they need replacing, more or less. I guess that's the best way I can put it. They need to be, because you guys don't seem to have adequate facilities for a lot of things. I mean, you go in the firehouse, and they went from a call department to now a full-time staffed department, which is, the building itself was built for a call department, so it wasn't really set up for, guys to stay overnight and do all these things, where they are doing that now. So they need adequate spaces, and like you said, accreditation things. There's a lot of hidden costs that will, or rather things that you pay for now that you won't have to pay for in the future, and then by combining it, that makes sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah, and the capital, and we are in need of upgrading our radio systems. Right now, we're still in an analog radio system. Over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been replacing through capital all of our portable radios, for example. And just to give you an example, some of our portable radios that I've replaced over the last 4 years through Capital were over 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
So the ones we purchase are roughly $2,000 a piece, each radio.
Wow.
But I've been buying digital because they still work with our current system.
Okay.
Because looking forward, it doesn't make any sense to have that large purchase again. We've spent, I believe, over $40,000 now in capital to replace the radios. Not only that, they're much stronger. We have dead areas in town right now in the current system, and I won't tell you where those are, but we have certain areas where our officers actually have to go back to the cruiser to talk on the radio.
Oh, really?
And
wow.
Because the portables just will not reach dispatch.
Interesting.
So part of a new public safety building is I asked Deputy Chief Chronopoulos before he retired a couple years ago to start looking into it, and we started bringing Motorola and one of our companies that we use for communications to start giving us an idea of what an overall upgrade to a digital system would be, whether it was running more fiber optic, whether it was going to microwave, whatever it was, and with that, our dispatch stations in the current building, in the police department building, those are over 20 years old.
Really?
So those are not technically supported anymore. There's spare parts basically hanging around, so if we have a problem with them, that's how they're being repaired.
Okay.
Those are going to be need to be replaced. The hope is that we move forward with the public safety building and we can replace this all at once, replace the system. And by the way, the radio system doesn't just get used by the police department, it gets used by fire department, the highway department. It's the communications for the town. So,
okay.
So it would be, my viewpoint would be an umbrella right within that project to do the whole radio system all at once, upgrade our dispatch center, et cetera.
That to me, that also makes sense. I mean, why do it now when you have to retrofit the building to accept these new things, and when you can just do it all in one?
Yeah, we're trying to get to that point, and we have to keep putting money into it. We have to buy equipment, and there's certain things that are going, and to maintain what we have so we can get to that point. So, and that's why I'm hopeful that we can get there before we have to. We're forced to put a bunch of money into, for example, the police department building, which it doesn't make any sense. And my sense is with the community, they're very supportive of law enforcement. They're very supportive of public safety in general, the fire department. And I think it's our job to articulate the need and why we need it. We just don't need a shiny new building. There's actual real safety reasons, public safety reasons we need it. And I'm very comfortable being able to express that to the community. So I'm looking forward to that. And, to hopefully at some point soon start setting up some informational meetings with the community and start discussing it.
At some point, we should do a bit of a video tour of the department.
I think that'd be great.
Just to show people,
Sure.
this is what it is now, and, we can talk about, obviously, some of the different things that you need and deficiencies and stuff. But
yeah, I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
I think it's good, and it's transparent process. I want to hear, obviously what people's concerns are. I think I can, try to address them. And but I'm very passionate about the fact that I know we need a new public safety building in this community, and I also know, talking to a lot of people, that I know there's a lot of support there. So,
what are actually, before I ask you this question, I just want to remind everybody at home, you're watching Tyngsborough TV's Friday Wrap Up. I've got the chief here, Rich Howe, talking about some of the things that have happened this year, going on this year in the department, and moving forward, obviously, into the future. You can watch this on Facebook, YouTube, Tyngsborough, Comcast 8, Verizon 29, and at tyngsboroughma.gov. So you can check this out a bunch of different places. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, I am watching the comments, so feel free to ask questions, which we did have one here real quick that I'll get to. Jeff Lebrec, hopefully I said that right, says, asked, does the Tyngsborough police cars and officers have video cams? We know the officers don't, but do the cruisers have
Hi,
video
Jeff.
cams?
We do not. It is something we looked at. It's very cost prohibitive.
Okay.
And there's a lot of other issues when you bring that stuff in. It's not to say that we wouldn't look at it or, in the future. It's not just buying the equipment. The equipment is the easy part.
Right.
And that's expensive. But the data storage, and
Which there's a lot of. It's going to be a ton.
It's significant.
Yeah.
And I just believe our resources can be used better in other places. With that said, I'm thankful that we haven't had a significant need for them. But it's not out of the realm of possibilities that, over the next 2 or 3 years, it's something that we're going to look at a little bit harder and try to identify resources.
Mm-hmm.
But with limited resources, you have to kind of identify your wants and your needs,
Mm-hmm.
and it isn't falling under the absolute need yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think a lot of people too should remember that you can say up and down like, oh, you should have body cams, or you should have cameras in your, or whatever the case may be, but to your point, so there's the cost for the initial equipment, there's the cost for the administration of the equipment, maintaining it and all that stuff, and in the case of video, there's the cost of keeping all the video, and then also the public information request. Somebody has to administer that, which we've talked about before with like Deputy Woods having to take all these requests in for information. That's just constant flow. Everybody constantly wants to know about some specific thing.
yeah.
So somebody has to do that, and there's cost to the department in terms of having, give out that stuff. Go
Yeah.
through all of it and
Yep.
give people what they're
It
asking
was
for.
Jeff that asked the question.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Jeff.
Oh, Jerry. Excuse me, not Jeff.
Jerry. That's not my fault, Jerry.
Jeff.
That's Steve's fault. Jerry, and to answer your question directly is we did look at it
Mm-hmm.
probably 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, I looked at body cams, and just to get an idea, and not that we were going to jump into it, I really feel that it's a little bit early. Actually, the technology, I've already seen in 3 years they're about half the size as they were. But we looked at it, and the companies come in and they're really happy to be there, and
Mhm.
they could sell you and how inexpensive they are, and then when you ask the big question is, okay, so what do we do at shift change? Well, you probably should have one for each officer, because it really won't work if you only have enough for your shift.
Mhm.
Okay, so the next question comes in, so how do we download all that information from each one prior to the next shift starting, and then get it? There's just a lot to it. And never mind the data storage, we haven't even gotten into that.
Yeah, right.
The only way it would really work, our analysis was that every uniformed officer, certified officer, would have to have their own. If you're going to do this, you have to do it right, or actually you open the town up for liability, because somebody later on will accuse you of, deleting something or trying to hide something, or
Mhm.
whatever it is. Of course, it's not the case, but that's what's going to happen. So, in order to do it right, each officer would have to have their own. There'd have to be a process in place where at the end of every shift, their module was downloaded
Mhm.
or uploaded into our system. You need people to do that. We don't have a full-time IT person. The town has, we have Jason Bulger,
Mhm.
and I think I owe him a coffee pretty much every day for the work he does. And
Coffee and a raise.
Yeah, and I didn't say that.
No.
But he does a phenomenal job. But that's what we have. So we don't have somebody sitting at the police station to do that. There's a lot that has to go into it, and
Right.
you can't jump into that program halfway.
Mhm.
You're either all in, or you're not doing it right, and you're opening the town up to liability.
Right, not something you can do willy-nilly for sure.
No,
And then the cost of so you mentioned the officers are going to have to now spend time downloading their body cams. There's more training involved in that, which obviously has a cost to it. So
yeah,
the time
and
it takes.
it's you have to create independence in there. So
Mhm.
it can't be the officers downloading their own cameras. It has to be somebody else. And there's all these different things that have to be in it.
Right.
Well, where is this personnel coming from?
Mhm.
I had saw something coming out that potentially there was going to come out from the state or feds mandating, and I said, really?
Huh.
It sounds like another unfunded mandate. So, and I said, okay, so where's the funding to come along with it?
Right.
Yeah. If they do that, I hopefully it's not going to happen, that it's going to be mandated. If they do, they better prepare to write a big check, because communities, just Tyngsborough and other communities,
Mhm.
can't afford it.
Mhm.
It's extremely expensive. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm not saying that it doesn't have a lot of value. It does have a lot of value. Actually, departments that use cameras, ironically, it works the opposite way than people think it would. It doesn't just reduce complaints against officers or officers, misconduct or anything else.
Mhm.
It actually reduces assaults, and it changes people's behavior toward the officers. When you know you're being video recorded, and every time for the last 10 times you're just belligerent with the police, and there are some people
Mhm.
just not cooperative, they're belligerent, they're looking to try to get that officer, emotional or whatever they're trying to do. it's an amazing effect. I've seen it. I've watched it. I've watched the training videos when they realize the officer has a body camera on them, and their behavior is suddenly much different. On the other hand, there's been incidents where it's been documented in officers. It's awful. Their actual assassination, their murder has been recorded on those body cameras. There's another effect to it.
Yeah.
But long story, long answer, but there's a lot more to it. As chief of this department, I'm not quite ready to embrace it. There'd be a lot that we would have to do behind the scenes, not only financially, but we also would have to sit down with our unions, obviously. It is
that's a whole nother layer I hadn't even thought of.
Yeah,
right?
It's absolutely, it's a area that we would have to bargain with the unions on, and I just don't see the need of it right now. As I said, and just to repeat it, I don't think it is necessary at this point. It's just not a priority financially.
Well, we have 20-year-old radios that need to be replaced. If you
Yeah.
can't communicate, I mean, a body camera's not going to do any good if you can't call backup or anything like that. So I'm going to hold you there because it's getting on 12, so I know you need to get going. Before you run, I just want to bring up this story. I thought you guys would get a kick out of this, because I thought you would also get a kick out of this. This is a pretty awesome story. So an ex-NASA engineer, this guy actually helped design the rover that's on Mars right now, some of the pieces of it anyways. He wanted to catch package thieves who kept stealing his packages from his doorstep, who he caught on his on a Ring camera on his doorstep. But he designed this absolutely insane device. It's awesome. You should watch this YouTube video if you get a chance. It's on this story. I got this from HuffPost, but it's called a glitter bomb. Basically what he did, he designed this thing. It's a box in a box. It has 4 cameras in it, cell phones, that record video, motion activated, so they start recording when the box gets moved. And when somebody opens up this thing, it does 2 things. One, it shoots glitter everywhere, like 360 degrees, basically. It's pretty awesome. You should see this thing. It's really incredible. And then it also has a little spray container with a very stinky thing that usually comes from most of us, a little fart smell kind of thing.
Wow.
And this guy actually was able to retrieve it because he put GPS in it, and was able 3 times on this video. He was able to go and retrieve it, and he shows the videos of the people who stole it. Doesn't show their faces, obviously, but it's just absolutely hilarious. So it's one really creative way to catch catch package thieves, which obviously is a problem pretty much everywhere, I think. I don't know that we've had too much of an issue.
We haven't. We've been fortunate, but I would urge people to understand that there are people out there doing that. We have had it happen, and it's something that try to time it. If you know when the package is going to be delivered, or have some family member come by and grab it, pick it up, or change the delivery time if you can. Those kind of things. But yeah, the video doorbell systems and other things are great. We had one recently from another community near us. And I don't know if that person's been identified yet, but she, I think, hit 7 houses in a short period of time. And so, unfortunately, there's people out there.
Yeah, just try to time it right. I mean, if you can keep an eye on and Amazon's good about sending the hourly updates pretty much. They'll tell you exactly where a package is. Same thing with USPS and UPS to some degree, too. They do this about the same thing. But, yeah, just keep, to your point, keep an eye on the package, the timing of it. Make sure maybe you can be there, or maybe have another location, an alternate location you can have it delivered to. So, like, sometimes I'll have stuff delivered here just because I'm not going to be home to get it, and nobody will be, and I don't want it sitting out on the front step, especially if it's going to rain, knowing the weather's going to be crummy like today. So something to keep in mind. But I want to thank you for your time. I know you're busy. I know you got to run, so I don't want to hold you anymore. But thank you again for coming on, and I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year if I don't get to see you.
Yeah, you as well, Steve.
Thank
and I want to wish everybody in the community a happy and healthy Christmas, New Year, and please be safe.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Take care, Steve.
Thank you. And everybody else, stick with me. I'm going to just take a really, really short break, and I want to queue up a couple videos. I have this great video from just the other day at the Council on Aging holiday party that the kids from the preschool across the street, I'll get the name of it in a minute, but the kids from the preschool came over and sang Christmas songs. It was awesome. A bunch of 3- and 4-year-olds singing holiday songs. It's pretty hilarious. So I'm going to queue that up in just a minute, and then we'll talk about some of the other fun stories that I pulled up that we can talk about, year-end wrap-ups and New Year's resolutions and all that fun stuff. So stay with me. I'll be right back, all right? All right, I am back. Thanks again for sticking around if you're watching. Don't forget you can watch this broadcast on Facebook, YouTube, Tyngsborough TV, Comcast 8, Verizon 29, and the TyngsboroughMA.gov website. You can watch it streaming there as well. Lots of different ways you can watch it and interact if you want to ask questions, talk about various things. I got a few fun things that we can chat about. You guys I left up the image of the glitter bomb thing. Absolutely hilarious. If you get a chance, go watch the YouTube video. It is funny as can be. This guy makes this really incredible contraption, like way beyond, over-engineered. Super cool though, but very, very interesting. And I wouldn't recommend anybody else doing this. You probably don't want to go chasing bad guys trying to catch your packages. However, he decided to do that, and he got his package back. That's for sure. And people haven't ripped off, at least as I heard. Anyways, he hadn't been ripped off. So recently, so kind of a cool thing. Another funny story I thought you might get a kick out of. Let me switch my screen here on my computer, and we'll talk about this one. So apparently, this is also on HuffPost. A cat somehow got into a box. If anybody out there who's a cat lover, you'll probably appreciate this greatly. Cat somehow got itself into a box, and that box was then mailed 700 miles away. So I love cats. That's why I don't have any. They drive me crazy because they do stuff like that and end up in bad places. Smart creatures, but man, I'll tell you sometimes. So kind of a funny story. But these are all just some funny stories I was recapping that have happened in 2018. So that's why we're chatting about this stuff. This one was rather hilarious, I thought. So a restaurant in Maine decided that they are going to get their lobsters stoned, because marijuana is now legal up there, I believe. So they're going to get the lobsters stoned before they cook them. Don't know how that's going to affect flavor. Maybe it'll taste good. I'd hope there wouldn't be any residual effects, especially if you just want your lobster and you don't want anything else. That said, maybe a creative way to appease PETA. I don't know. Kind of funny, though. They'd probably get mad about the stone part, too. But that's definitely a pretty funny story. I'll post the links to these, too, in the comment section so you can check them out for yourself. But there's definitely some really funny stories here. Also, another funny one. Let me switch over here to another one. So this one, I can totally see this happening absolutely anywhere. Apparently, a couple of gentlemen decided to get into a fight in the free sample food line. They were getting free burgers, and one gentleman decided he was going to cut in line, and the other guy in line, I guess, dared him to do it again, and a fight ensued. So, I don't know. I guess if you're going to get free samples, just take your free sample and don't be dumb, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of funny. Definitely kind of a silly story, but yeah, so I don't know. I don't know why people do what they do sometimes, but I guess if you really want your free sample, they were in a Costco too, of all places, I think. So don't fight in line and don't cut people in line, because that's not nice, because then you just get people mad at you. That's no good. And the last one, this one's just absolutely, I'm going to play the video for this one because it's absolutely hilarious. Let's see if I can get it here. I'm trying to do stuff over my shoulder. Where is it? There's a video here somewhere for this. Let me refresh the page. Maybe that'll help. Anyways, somebody got some pretty funny video of a couple of Christmas inflatables duking it out. Like wild, wacky inflatable. I don't know what this has to do with what we're trying to talk about here. There's always ads. Does that drive anybody else nuts? I don't know about you guys, but ever since YouTube started adding ads, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Since people started adding YouTube and all the other websites started putting ads in their videos, it makes me not want to watch them as much, to be honest with you. I'll still watch the video if it's something I'm really interested in, but if I have to watch like 30 seconds of ads to watch like a dumb clip of like whatever, some random thing, honestly, I'll skip over it. I'll usually just ditch it and say, forget it, it's not worth it. But that's just me. I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things that just bugs me, but they all do it now, so you kind of really can't get away from it. If you want to watch the video, you have to watch the ads. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of is what it is. But again, I'll post all the links to these stories. Oh, let's see, maybe it's gonna work now. Why is it the ad? See what I mean? And then it's this ad again. Anyways, it was a funny video that they were supposed to play. Yeah, maybe it's on the bottom. No, nope, that's just not gonna work. Okay. Oh well, sorry. I tried to show it to you, but it was a couple of couple of funny inflatables literally fighting on the highway. Yeah. Oh well. Also, I want to mention really quickly before I start to wrap this up. Best Friends, the pet boarding facility that's in Tyngsborough. They have a new location that they're building. I don't know if you've noticed it, but down on Middlesex Road, not far from the new development on Middlesex Road and Cazador's, that plaza over there. Best Friends is building a brand new facility, and on January 5th, they're having a grand opening. They're inviting everybody and anybody who wants to come down and check it out. To come down on January 5th, and you can take a tour and check out the facility. I was actually requested by the folks there to come down and do a video with them, so I'm going to go down and do a sneak peek tour so you guys can check it out. If you can't make it on the 5th and you want to see what's going on over there, I'll do that sometime in probably the last week of this year or the very beginning of next year, obviously before January 5th. So I'm going to try to run over there at some point and get some video and be able to show you guys what's going on at Best Friends. They've got a lot of really cool stuff going on. From the woman I talked to, she mentioned a bunch of really neat stuff. So January 5th, that is happening. So if that's something you're interested in, then definitely come check it out. Also, the Tyngsborough Fire Department has put up their Where's Ember again? I'm going to try to bring up my computer screen one more time here. Hang on a second. Yeah, let's go here first real quick. So you don't have to look at me over my shoulder, that's not nice, I guess. So the fire department's been doing this really great series of Where's Ember. Let's see if I can get to it quickly. And they basically take Ember, which is their Christmas elf, and they bring him all over town, take pictures with him at various locations, and then you have to guess where Ember is. So they're still doing that. They're running it up right up till Christmas, when Ember then has to go back to the North Pole. And I'll show you a quick shot here. Let me see if I can just bring it up real fast here. I'll show you a quick shot of today's image. There you go. You can guess where he's at. If you want to take part, run over to the TFD Facebook page. You can post your guess there if you have a guess for it. There we go. That's coming up. If you have a guess for it. And you can follow their page and stuff and check out all the other things that they post. There's lots of stuff that goes on. They try to post some of the different events. And if there's any fires, we generally will post some photos of that stuff there as well. So cool page to follow. Tyngsborough Police Department's also a really cool page to follow. Lots of good stuff that happens over there. From department reports to some of the good community stuff that they do and to other events and things like that. So we definitely post quite a bit on that page as well. Also, if you didn't get a chance to check it out already, we did a really cool video, very short but very cool video, just earlier this week with Animal Control Officer Dave Robson and the Animal Control Officer Maureen Graham from the town of Dracut, who had rescued a injured barred owl. They brought it to a facility to have it rehabilitated and let it heal. And then we released it, or they released it. I was just there filming it, but it was doing okay, so it flew off and did its owl thing, so that was pretty cool. If you want to check out that video, that's on our Facebook page. I've shared it across. It's on police page, the Tyngsborough MA page, and also the Tyngsborough TV page. There's another page if you get a chance. I know there's tons of Facebook pages. You probably have a million of them already, but follow my page, the Tyngsborough TV Facebook page. I post most of the stuff. All the videos that I do, generally they start there, and I'll share them out to the other pages. But if you want to get the alerts as far as like live videos, or just keep up with what's going on in Tyngsborough TV, and obviously I share other town stuff there as well. If you want to keep up with that stuff, feel free to like that page. That's a good one. I try to post as much as I can as far as content, video content, and news and all that fun stuff. So I do my best to inform and educate the community at large on basically just what's going on here in town, because there is quite a bit for a small town of Tyngsborough with 12,000 people soaking wet. There's quite a bit of stuff that happens in here. Whether it be town government or events. Grand openings or new restaurants or other businesses, things like that. And like I said, all the different events that happen, block parties and festival of trees and all kinds of fun, really cool stuff, things that building department, rec department, so on and so forth. There's tons of really good information that happens. And I do the best I can to inform you guys on the stuff that's happening as it happens, or at least relatively closely to when it happens. Because sometimes there's too many things that I can't get to everything at once. But that said, like the page and you can follow along with us. Also, don't forget, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff on whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, as that helps with Facebook's algorithms in terms of the more people who interact with the content on our pages, the more you'll see them in your news feeds. So I don't if you don't know already, if you could have liked 100 pages when you first opened your Facebook account. However, you may only see posts from one or two of those pages that you had liked or followed. The reason being is you don't interact with those pages enough. If you don't interact with those pages, they don't show up in your news feed as often or as common as other pages might that you interact with more. So that's kind of how Facebook works, their algorithms, and they've made some changes recently too that sort of not helped people who have just regular pages or don't pay for ad content or pay for content to get pushed out. So the more you interact with those pages, the more you'll see it. And if you're wondering why you don't see posts from XYZ page, that's probably why you just haven't been on. So go on and like a post every now and again, and those will actually start popping up. You'll notice it almost immediately in your news feeds that those things will start popping up. Also, Facebook's not the only place you can watch us, or it's not the only place to get content either, honestly, news and otherwise. YouTube is a good place. Twitter, we do post some stuff on Twitter. Anything that goes on our website immediately goes up to Twitter and then bounces over to Facebook as well. So Twitter's a good one. You can follow the Tyngsborough Mass page. Tyngsborough Police has one, and Tyngsborough Fire has one. So those are good for just quick hits on quick news. Alerts, things like that. We'll put them out on Facebook and stuff as well, but Twitter's definitely a good one for alerts and things. And then all of the stuff that I talk about generally, it's on tyngsboroughma.gov for the most part. There are stories I get or information I get from other places, but the big stuff, meetings that are happening, the agendas, news in town, things like that, some of the bigger things that have involve town government, all that stuff gets posted on tyngsboroughma.gov. So definitely check out that website. I know it can be a little bit daunting at times because there's a lot of stuff that happens. It can be a lot to keep up with. You have your own life, and we all do. It's kind of tough sometimes to follow all the little nitty-gritty things that happen in town. That said, it's important that at least you have some basic knowledge of what's going on in your town, because these things affect you directly, whether it be your trash pickup or your taxes or anything else around that of that nature. It's good to know at least a very high level, have a very high level knowledge of what's going on in town. For example, January 9th, we're going to be doing a new master plan. The town, or rather starting with this new visioning session on January 9th over at Old Town Hall. So there's something that you may be interested in. You may want to come in and voice your concern, voice your opinions on what you would like to see Tyngsborough do in the next decade, basically. How you want to see it developed or not developed, and so on and so forth. So that's something that you want to, one of the many things that you can get, information that you can get from our website. And from the stuff that I do, the broadcasts that I do. I try to mention this stuff as frequently as possible. I do the news on Mondays, so if you want to check that out, that's usually pretty short, 15-ish minutes or so. And then the Friday thing is usually between an hour and an hour and a half, depending on how long I have a voice for. Mine's been going quite a bit because I've been sick since last Friday, actually. It's been kicking my butt, too, I'll tell you that. It's been a rough one. But anyways, you can get all that information from our website over the vast majority of it. And like I said, not every piece that I talk about comes from the website, but most of it does. So you can get a lot of really good stuff. The calendar that's on our website, if you want to follow along at least at a high level with what meetings are coming up, what's going on, and have quick access to agendas and things like that, go on our website, click on the calendar, click on that little Google Plus or Plus Google or whatever it is down the bottom. I forget what the image looks like here. I'll show you actually. Bring it to the website just so I can actually show you what it is. But anyway, click on that button, and that will add that to your calendar, provided you have a Gmail calendar. Here we go. Here, I'll show you right here. So it's this little symbol down on the bottom here. It's a little plus with a Google Calendar on it. If you click on that and you have Gmail, a Gmail account, that will actually add that to your calendar. You can toggle it on and off, so you don't have to look at it all the time in your calendar, in your preferences. But it's a great way to at least know what meetings are coming up. And then if you go click on a meeting, generally, most of the time, the meeting will have the agenda attached to it, so you can actually quickly go through and just what's going on at the selectmen meeting this past Monday. There was a bunch of stuff that happened, and I went over that on the news, but I was able to show you the agenda right from the website, and it gives you just a quick knowledge of okay, there's this, and this are coming up. Maybe I want to pay attention to this one subject over here, so at least I know roughly when I can tune in, and what meeting to watch in order to hear about that piece of information. So like I said, there's lots of interesting things that are happening in town, from public safety buildings to master plans, the potential purchase of the Tyngsborough Country Club. There's just tons of things. The sewer project, that's an ongoing major project that people who are affected by that probably want to pay attention to. There are a ton of things and a ton of really good reasons why you should pay attention to that. So maybe for your New Year's resolution, you'll pay attention to our website a little more. No, I'm just kidding. Or just watch my broadcast, and I'll do the best I can to get you guys some info. So anyways, I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but hopefully it's useful, at least in some respect. Before I wrap it up, so obviously, crummy day outside. Do watch for ponding on roadways, localized flooding, that kind of stuff. The usual with the heavy rain, especially where we're getting like 3 to 4 inches of rain, according to National Weather Service. There's quite a bit of it there. So also check your sump pumps if you're in a low-lying area and you have to use a sump pump. You rely on that to keep your basement dry. Definitely check that. Make sure it's operational because there's a good chance it might get used today. So make sure it's working properly and you don't end up with a flooded basement. And check on others too. Check on your relatives and neighbors and friends and things like that, just to make sure that they're okay, because water can do an amazing amount of damage in a very, very short time. If, whether it's a leak in your roof or ingress in your basement or something like that, definitely keep an eye on that and check on your friends, neighbors, and all that fun stuff. Though thankfully not too bad. I think there was supposed to be some wind. I might have missed some of that, but I thought there was supposed to be some wind with this thing too. So generally when we have a lot of high winds here in Tyngsborough, power outages tend to follow. So hopefully that doesn't happen. We'll cross our fingers on that one. But that may have changed too. I haven't read it in the last 12 hours. It was last night that I read the last report. So I don't recall any wind or any change in the wind anyways. So what else did I want to mention to you? I know. I was going to talk. So 2 more things before I wrap this up. And I want to play that video of the kids singing Christmas carols from Creative Minds over on Westford Road. Awesome job they did. It was really funny to watch. They were very cute. I am looking for citizen journalists. So if you live in town and you see something that happens and you can safely, I preface this very, very heavily with, if you can safely get either a picture or video of said thing, whatever the incident may be, I would love to hear from you. If you want to take a picture or video, you can email it to me, sbrogan@tyngsboroughma.gov. If you want to send me a message on Facebook, there's ways we can transfer videos and things like that. Lots of really cool ways. I can even have you just text it to me directly. And that way I can use it on the news. I would love to hear what's going on in town, so weather thing happens, and you've got some issue going on near where you are, again, safely, please. Don't do this if it's going to put yourself at great risk or bodily injury or harm. I don't want to see that happen. But if you can get an image of something or take some video of something happening, or even if it's just an event or soccer game or something like that, whatever it is, send it in to me. I would love to see it, and I would love to share it on the news on Monday or on the Friday wrap-ups, depending on what the content is. I'd definitely love to show that off to the community, and I'd love to hear from you guys. I want to start hearing from the community at large, because this what I do here. This is for you guys. Really, I'm just trying to demonstrate some of the things that can be done. And I want to engage the community at large to start doing some of this stuff as well, because free speech, and everybody says free speech and all that stuff, but that's the reason why this was created. PEG Access, for those who don't know, which is what I'm paid and funded. PEG Access was created so that the community members in that particular city, town, or whatever can have access to the airwaves, so that if you have something you want to say, you can get it out there on an equal footing to everything else that's on TV as it is. So in the age of fake news and all the other fun stuff, this is your opportunity to voice concerns, voice opinions, talk about things going on in the community, whether it's good or bad or otherwise, support for things or not support for things, whatever the case may be. This venue, this thing that I do here, is for you guys. It's for you guys to come out and tell your story, tell what it is. That's why I have the tagline on the graphic is what's your story? What is your story? Tell us your story. The community wants to know what your story is. So that's why I have that tagline there, and that's why I do this. I'm trying to demonstrate to you guys that this is something that you can do very easily. It doesn't take a lot of work. Quite honestly, I facilitate the vast majority of what happens, or would facilitate the vast majority of what needs to be done, just to make sure that you can get your message out. And it doesn't involve spending any money or going crazy with equipment or anything like that. I have all that stuff here. You can come in, sit down, literally where I'm sitting right now, and tell your story, whatever the case, whatever that may be. So that's why we have this here. So yeah, I think I've rambled on that subject, but I'm looking for citizen journalists. If you see something, I would love to see your images, videos, and again, whatever it is, whether it's a weather thing or just some cool event or some neat thing that happened right near your house. I'd love to see pictures and videos. Again, prefacing with, if you can do it safely, please don't go out in the middle of a crazy windstorm or a hurricane or whatever. You know, don't do anything that's going to cause potentially put yourself at risk. Please don't do that. But if you can snap a picture from inside your house or from your parked vehicle or something like that to show something that's happened in town, would love to see it. Definitely would love to see it. So you can email that stuff in sbrogan@tyngsboroughma.gov. You can also, like I said, you can message me through Facebook, or we can text or whatever, however we need to get the data sent over. And I would love to see that. I'd love to put it up on Mondays. I think it'd be pretty fun. Pretty fun to do. And maybe it'll start to get your feet wet in some of the things that are, some of this stuff, and maybe you might start to generate an interest in it, because it is pretty fun. It's neat. It's a neat way to talk to people. Neat way to get content and chat with folks. And we use Facebook and YouTube and all that fun stuff, so you can actually the comment sections, which can be kind of brutal sometimes, but whatever, it is what it is. So it's fun. You can talk back and forth. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to bring up the video of the kids. Let me cue it up here. So I guess I'll ramble for another second before I get this loaded. But again, this was at the Council on Aging, their holiday party. They had the kids from Creative Minds, which is directly across the street from the Council on Aging building. They came over, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. They sang holiday songs. Now, I will say, bear with this, because this is completely unedited. I shot this on my phone while I was trying to also take pictures on a still camera, so it's not the greatest video, nor is it edited in any particular way. So it's literally just the raw video, but I thought you'd get a kick out of seeing, and hopefully you can hear the kids singing. It was hilarious. All right, so I'm going to stop talking and bring this up for you guys, and hopefully this actually plays sound. Let's see.
For a few weeks, when I was called and asked, I was like, okay, we can do this. So they've been excited because I told them we were having a little show. So we just have a few songs to sing for you to get everybody.
Technology some days is just phenomenal.
Sing for a few weeks. When I was called and asked, I was like, okay, we can do this. So they've been excited because I told them we were having a little show. So we just have a few songs to sing for you to get everybody in the Christmas spirit. So we're going to start with a song that we do at Circle Time. So we're going to start with that song first. Is everybody ready? Yeah! It's December, holiday time, Hanukkah Kwanzaa Christmas, New Year's too, New Year's too. Every month we do a new song, so that ready for the next one? You ready? Stay standing. You like to be standing? Okay. We're going to do one of your favorites, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Are you ready for your next one? This is for your favorite. You want to stay standing? I think you like to sit down. So this song is called Five Candy Canes. So you want to count down? You want to count down with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you ready? You ready? You all ready?
There we go. That was the end of the video. Sorry. I didn't realize that ended when it did. Yeah, because I had stopped and started taking more pictures, and then I started recording on another camera. So anyways, that was the Creative Minds preschool over on Westford Road. They came over to the Council on Aging just the other day and sang some Christmas carols. It was a lot of fun. They had a good time. I think the seniors had a good time watching them. And yeah, it was fun. It was a good time. Get some other pictures I'll post after next week when I get back from vacation. So on that note, I will be off next week, so there won't be any news or Friday wrap-up. I will be here the following Monday to do the news, and then Friday, obviously, too, but we'll be, obviously, Town Hall will be closed on on Christmas Day and on New Year's Day, and we'll be closing early on the eve of both of those beforehand. So if you have any business that you have to do at Town Hall, get in quickly and try to get it done as soon as you can. As always, any questions for me, sbrogan@tyngsboroughma.gov. I'll be happy to try to find answers for you if I can. And also, don't forget, you can watch this broadcast on the multitude of places we share it on. All the pages on Facebook that we share it to, YouTube, as well as Comcast 8, Verizon 29 here in Tyngsborough, and at tyngsboroughma.gov. Like, commenting, sharing, subscribing to all those really helps to get that information out. The more people who interact with our content online, the more people will see it. So that's definitely very helpful. And again, weather's kind of crummy, so just be ready for it. Watch out for, ponding, flooding, all that fun stuff. So hooray. That's all I have for you folks. I hope you guys have a great rest of the great weekend. Have a very Merry Christmas. If I don't I won't get to talk to you since before Christmas. So have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever your denomination may be. I hope it's a happy, safe, healthy one for you. Hopefully you don't get this cold that's been going around or the other bugs. Ugh. It's a lingerer, let's say. Not a fun one. No, it's never fun being sick, but it's crummy. It's sticking around. Ugh. I feel miserable. Anyways, that's my story. So I want to know what your story is. If you want to be a citizen journalist and tell me what's going on here in the community, wherever it is that you see things happening, take pictures, video, whatever the case may be. sbrogan@tyngsboroughma.gov. You can email me stuff, or you can send it on Facebook, or like I said, there's a couple other avenues we can connect and transfer media if you would like to do that. I would really love to see more community members do that. The citizen journalism thing, I think, is really fun. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do, and it's a simple way to put some really good local information out there for folks, because generally where it's so hyper-local, it is important to the people that are in your community. So people that are willing to help out and share that stuff helps out everybody else in the community. So. And then I appreciate it because it's more content that I can share with the community at large. So, yeah, all that said, guys, again, have a great weekend. Very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I will see you not this coming Monday, but the following Monday for the Monday news. So take it easy, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.